defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. And I am back, my friends. I went to Vegas. I went to Phoenix for a bachelor party for a buddy. And I'm recording this show super late compared to other ones. I'm way behind on my email. I went to go type in my website, justinmoreshow.com, and I still don't see the 2 newest episodes. And I remember sending an email to Libsyn, and they're like, oh yeah, everything works just fine. Okay, now that I'm back home now, I'm not going on any vacations or anything like that. I'm going to get all this figured out, I hope, because I know it's kind of frustrating to me. So I'll get that. And by the way, Phoenix was awesome. That was my first time there. I really like how it's kind of laid out. And my buddy who the bachelor party was for, he likes to golf. And so I brought my golf clubs with me, and we ended up golfing. We golfed on a day, which was a record day for heat in Phoenix for May. Because typically in Phoenix in May, they don't hit triple digits. Now, obviously, the summertime, Phoenix, it's triple digits all the time. That's all it is. But for May, it was very unusual, and it hit 109 degrees. And here I was out golfing in that weather. So that's the hottest weather I've ever golfed in. I had to go when we were halfway through the first 9 holes. I had to go in the pro shop. You know, they have those little wet towels you can soak down. You just put them across your shoulders. Yeah, I had to get one of those things. I swear I was getting a stroke. So that was probably the best $15 I ever spent because I didn't have to go to the hospital. But I got through it, and it was a great time. I'm glad to be back in Montana. It's a little cooler here. But in the meantime, I was so far behind on the news and just haven't been able to catch up. Of course, what's always a crazy, insane, out of control place right now is over in Venezuela. And I've done multiple episodes laying out how it's the perfect example of socialism run amok and how it literally destroys people's lives. Oh yeah, you want to help the little guy? No, socialism destroys the little guy. And that is exactly what's going on in Venezuela. And just right here, recently, as of last week or May 5th, you had President Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. He ordered a 60% raise in the minimum wage. And he's also wants to see an increase in the food subsidies and, increases for pensions. So, for the average person in the United States, what a great guy. Look at him. He's trying to help people out. Right? Isn't the argument from, in particular, liberal politicians here in the United States that, we got to raise the minimum wage because, we need a livable wage. We don't want people starving. We want people to, not have to be so poor. We want to help people out. We're compassionate people. That's why we want to raise the minimum wage. Well, in Venezuela, remember you guys, I've talked on this show, talking about how they're eating, flamingos and anteaters over there, cats and dogs. Well, the minimum wage, since in the last year, Nicolas Maduro has raised it 6 times. They keep raising it, but people keep starving. How is that? I thought the minimum wage helped these people. And so this is yet more examples of how what's going on in Venezuela is not the right solution to the problems that they face. And I've laid that out on my show, previous episodes, talking about Venezuela, saying how, look, Nicolas Maduro, his solution is, we just need more government. That will fix this problem and this problem and this problem. No problem. We just need to throw more money at the problem. So that's what he's doing with the minimum wage. And we're going to increase food stamps, increase pensions. And if people just have more money, then they can afford to purchase their food so they won't starve. But that is not what's happening. People are still starving. And then what's been going on lately, these last 2 months, is that we're seeing protests that have been mounting and mounting. And just right here, this is from a news article from The Blaze. And it says this: Venezuela is now entering its 2nd month of unrest. Protests and riots have erupted throughout the country because of drastic drops in the price of oil and the socialist President Nicolas Maduro's mismanagement of the country's private sector. Venezuela owns all or part of over 500 companies within its borders. And 70% of them are bleeding money. The government has also been seizing the property of private companies without warning, including a General Motors plant in the city of Valencia. Inflation within the socialist country is expected to grow to over 2,000% by next year. Maduro has responded by hiking the minimum wage for the third time in the last 12 months. These financial troubles have caused massive food and medicine shortages, as well as shortages of everyday items such as toilet paper. This lack of food has caused 3/4 of Venezuela's population to lose dangerous amounts of weight. Let's see, here in the United States, we got a bunch of people on food stamps, and people are purposely trying to lose weight in our country because we have so many people who are overweight. We have so many people who are on food stamps who are apparently starving to death, but are not really because they're, I guess you consider obese. But here in Venezuela, they're just trying to survive. I mean, they're at such a dangerous level in terms of weight loss because when you're eating flamingos, it's your end game, right? I mean, you're not just going to go pick them out and eat them. You'd rather have, some steak, right? Now, and so, as I was pointing out earlier, so with all the government has done to step in, to intervene, to assist in this crisis, to make it less bad, well, it's all gotten so much worse. It just progressively, it seems like every month now, you see some news stories about just how crazy things are getting. Like, you thought it was crazy before. It's like, oh, they just upped their game. But according to the average liberal here in the United States, if the government steps in, it's got to step in because it's the unbiased third party. They're the ones who are actually trying to help the little guy, not some greedy businessman. But what we're seeing in Venezuela, that is a bunch of bull. And of course, listeners of this show, you guys already know that. But the average person out there, they still have no idea. And they have no idea what's going on in Venezuela. I've talked to people like, oh man, this is crazy, like what's going on in Venezuela. And they're like, wait, what's going on in Venezuela? The average person doesn't know. And just listen to this right here. In response to the protests, Maduro has promised his civilian loyalists, the Bolivarian militia, he will put a gun in the hands of every militiaman. This promise comes after Maduro has spent time campaigning for a gun-free Venezuela. Now, of course, we can all relate to this because every politician, they're all a bunch of liars. They're all wildly inconsistent because they have no principles. They talk a good game. Yeah, they want to get rid of guns from the average person. But yeah, they sure as hell want guns in the hands of their followers. Because what do these politicians want at the end of the day? Power. They want to control you and I. So every good little thing you see a politician out there saying, oh yeah, we got to do this, and yeah, we want to help the environment, yeah, global warming legislation, yeah, cap and trade. All of that is to control you. Oh yeah, you want the government to run healthcare? If the government's going to pay for if the government is going to pay for your procedures, well then you better follow exactly what the government tells you to do. You're not living in a way that we want you to live, or you're eating too much sugar, all that sort of thing, instead of it being regulated by insurance and the private sector. You really want politicians trying to figure out who should get a procedure and who shouldn't? Well, apparently, when we passed Obamacare, that's what people wanted. Well, that's what the politicians forced down our throat. The majority of Americans didn't want it, but there still was a good percentage of the population that did want Obamacare. And everybody thought it was great. Yeah, the government's going to pay the tab. That's awesome. I want free healthcare. Yeah, all of this stuff works to the average person because they don't understand economics. All they're seeing is what's in front of their face. They're not looking at the consequences of those actions, the indirect consequences of those actions, the unseen that Frederick Bastiat talked about. All that sort of stuff, people don't look at it with that sort of mindset. But more people should. That would definitely make it better for you and I. And I scroll down here and I look. Let's see. Oh yeah, just to kind of give you guys, this is also from another Blaze article. Because as I read in that last article, how Venezuela owns over 500 companies basically. Well, this right here, this line tells you more. This kind of gives you more insight into that. According to information recently garnered by the nonprofit Transparency International, Venezuela's government owns or has a majority ownership in 511 businesses within the country. And just a quote from that article to continue it. We started this study because nobody really knows how many companies the state is running, said Mercedes de Freitas. I totally butchered that. Director of the Venezuelan branch of Transparency International. The state has invaded every sector imaginable. End quote. That was all coming from that Mercedes character. So here we have it. Someone in Venezuela, this director of this nonprofit group, look, the government is intervening in every sector of this economy. Well then, if the government is so brilliant at running things, why isn't it booming? Why are they struggling? How much evidence do people need to really understand the truth or want to seek the truth? Well, I mean, as I said earlier here, and just to expand on that point, the average person has no idea what's going on in Venezuela. They still don't. Most people, they're paying attention to their sports scores, other little things in their lives. People are trying to figure out how to survive. They went to college thinking, okay, yeah, this is going to set me up for this amazing career. Then they get out of college and they realize, oh, wait, what? There's not a job in women's studies. What is wrong with this? What type of crazy world do we live in? Yeah, maybe you should have thought about it. Just getting a degree in something doesn't mean it's actually has a market value to it. That people are, if it does, it's very small and your pay is going to reflect that. You want to go into something that people value or will value in the future. Like, usually, it's some sort of technology space or healthcare, things like that, engineering, stuff that people always need. And, you can't, women's studies, really? Most people really do. They have their head in the clouds. And so for right now, they think, okay, they're struggling with this, with what's going on right now. Oh my gosh, life sucks. Yeah, I can still kind of do some things, but, I'm not living the life I thought I could be because I'm still living with mommy and daddy and I'm 35 years old, that sort of thing. But when this next crisis does come, when we face a sort of Venezuelan type moment here in the United States, those people are going to be forced to wake up. They don't wake up at that point. Well, guess what? They're not going to make it through it. It's going to be very hard to make it through it if you're that person who's thinking like that. At least you're saving money on rent by living with mom and dad. But, you got to have some savings. You got to be able to get through this. You got to be able to help your mom and dad, And so that's why it's so important that, you come here every week because I'll always try to update you on what's coming. And, of course, you guys who do listen to this show, you are way, way ahead of the curve. And, like for me, I've done all the little things I've ever recommended to you guys to prepare for what's coming. Obviously when you see, fiat currencies like the Bolivar over in Venezuela, then why do you have, if you're in the United States and say you have a lot of money in your bank account, why is it all in US dollars? You should diversify. At least have some in gold and silver, physical as well as, if you want to speculate a little more, invest in some miners, invest in food storage, all the little things you need to survive to be able to last a few months. Because as people are literally starving to death in Venezuela, you don't want to be one of those people who's then out on the streets and rioting. I just saw before I recorded this episode, this video from those protests over in Venezuela where there's a bunch of guys on the streets and you see this tank just running people over. Then someone throws a Molotov cocktail at the tank. It's wild what's going on there. We don't want to be the ones caught up in the streets like that, because when you actually know the truth of what's going on, we won't be those people. We'll instead be, keeping our powder dry and seizing opportunities where we can. Because what was it? Was it 1999 when Hugo Chavez came into power? And Hugo Chavez, he kind of sounded like a conservative when he was first elected to Venezuela. But he took the country sharply left, and he completely destroyed it. Because Hugo Chavez, he died back in 2013. And I just saw another news story that these protesters, they tore down a statue of Hugo Chavez. So these people are understanding that, okay, the government's corrupt, they don't want a dictator, so that's good. At least they're understanding that, but their solutions still aren't the correct ones. And it's, how much is it going to take? So I don't know. Maybe they are starting to wake up. But do you really want to wake up while you're rioting on the street and you might not survive it because you might get ran over by a tank, or you might not be able to catch a flamingo that day? You don't want to be in that situation. And so I thank you guys each and every week for coming here. I'm going to try to get this all worked out. If you haven't listened to these last few episodes, and hopefully I can get it all fixed, you're like, oh, wow, okay, Justin has been here every single week. And so I will do that. And if you guys go to my website, just go to justinmooreshow.com, more spelled M-O-H-R. If you want to support me by going through my little Amazon link there, any goods you buy by going through my link, I get a small commission back. Costs you nothing extra. You can donate to me directly on PayPal. Join Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. All to my links, I get little commissions back, and it doesn't cost you anything extra, and it does help me out here a lot, because apparently I need some help with my tech here, with the issues I'm having. So I will talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.